Voice Your Place Sulina is an audio guide narrated by teenagers about the built heritage of their town. Thank you for visiting the city and listening to our audio guide.
The Churches of Sulina. Sulina is a small town with a remarkable urban and architectural history. At the beginning of the 20th century, it had more than 10 places of worship, built by different communities. Romanian and Russian Orthodox, Greek, Italian Catholic, Armenian, Anglican, Muslim, and Jewish. Each community brought its own style, building materials, and construction traditions. Today, some of these churches still exist, others have disappeared, but all are part of the town's story. The Muslims were the first to build a place of worship. The old Hamidia Mosque once stood on the left bank of the Danube and was part of the Ottoman fortifications of the town. In front of it stood 7 cannons and 11 coffee houses with small shops where passing ships could buy all the provisions they needed, as architecture historian Anca Filip writes. In 1870, the Muslims built another mosque on the right bank, near the European Commission of the Danube district, damaged in the wars. It was demolished in 1950.
In 1829, with the Treaty of Adrianople, the Danube Delta came under the administration of the Tsarist Empire. On the right bank, in central Sulina, the Russians built a monumental Orthodox church now gone. Its altar is marked today by a cross in the courtyard of the old Orthodox Church of St. Nicholas. Alongside the Ottoman lighthouse of 1802, this church became one of the town's visual symbols. 19th century engravings show a small settlement dominated by these two landmarks.
The old Orthodox Church of St. Nicholas, the spiritual patron of sailors, was the first Romanian masonry church in Sulina. It was built between 1866 and 1868 in neoclassical style, with the support of the Romanian-Russian community and the European Commission of the Danube, on the site of the older Russian church. When the new church was inaugurated, the old one was demolished, but its iconostasis, some icons and ritual books were preserved. It served as the main Orthodox church, becoming a cathedral after 1878, with services held in both Romanian and Russian. It was restored in 1923 and renovated in 1956, but abandoned in 1982.
The complexity of its design and the historical context meant that construction of the Orthodox Cathedral of Saints Alexander and Nicholas dragged on for decades, resuming only with royal support and major financial effort. Known as the Cathedral of the Delta, it was begun in 1910 during the reign of King Carol I. After a long construction, interrupted by lack of funds and war, it was resumed under King Carol II and finally completed in 1982. It was built in Neo-Romanian style to the plans of architect Nicolae C. Mihăiescu. The 3-towered church has a triconch plan, a widened narthex in the porch. On the exterior, medallions of saints in Venetian mosaic by the painter Dumitru Norocea complement the rich decoration. Today, the cathedral is the Orthodox religious center of the town.
The Greek Church of St. Nicholas was built between 1866 and 1868 on a basilica plan with 3 naves. Designed in a neoclassical style with Byzantine influences, it features bulb-shaped domes, interior columns, and polychrome stained glass. The facade is marked by a classical pediment windows, while its balanced proportions give the building a sober yet monumental appearance. Inside, the carved wooden iconostasis and discrete frescoes survive, within a spacious interior covered by a semi-cylindrical vault. Next to it, a Greek school functioned from 1883. The church was built with the support of the Commission, and services continued to be held in both Greek and Romanian. The interior preserves the original iconostasis and part of the furnishings, illustrating the spiritual continuity of Sulina's Hellenic community.
The Roman Catholic Church of St. Nicholas was erected in 1863 on a basilica plan with 3 naves. It was built with Maltese stone and decorated with Carrara marble. Its architectural style is eclectic neoclassicism with Baroque accents in the decoration of the altar and side niches. The facade is a symmetrical composition dominated by pilasters and a simple pediment. Inside, stained glass with religious scenes, a semi-dome vault above the apse, and a carved stone pulpit reflect the austere elegance typical of provincial Italian churches. Restored in 2013, it is linked to the martyred priest Cornel Chira, and once served the prosperous Italian Catholic community. In the past, a small parish school operated here, and the church courtyard was a gathering place for Italian festivals.
Although some churches have now disappeared, they were still active at the end of the 19th century, when Sulina reached the peak of its development. The Armenian Church, built in 1893 in the western part of the town, the Armenian Quarter, remained active until 1958. Regular services were held there until the First World War. Damaged during the wars, it was abandoned after 1950.
The Jewish community synagogue, built at the end of the 19th century, was more of a prayer house where the community gathered on Saturdays. It was abandoned after the Second World War and demolished in the 1950s. The Anglican Church of the Holy Trinity, built in 1869 for the commission officials, was destroyed in the bombings of 1940. It stood next to the British Seamen's Institute in the Commission District, itself a former Turkish barracks converted into a cultural center.
The Old Believers, Staroveri refugees from Russia in the 17th century, arrived in Sulina at the start of the 20th century. Their first church, built in 1928, was demolished in 1995 and replaced by the current Old Rite Church of Saints Peter and Paul. In traditional Staroveri style, it has bulb-shaped domes, steep roofs, and a carved iconostasis. The services are held in Old Church Slavonic, and the community strictly maintains its rituals.
Thus, the Churches of Sulina are not only heritage buildings, they are anchors of memory. In a town where languages, flags, and customs from all over Europe converged, faith was one of the few shared points of reference. These buildings tell the story of a multi-ethnic community united by diversity and respect. They continue to stand as witnesses to a unique history at the confluence of waters and cultures.
This text was narrated by
Iosefina Frînculeț,
Riana Cojocaru,
and by
Crina Pătrașcu.
The audio guide was recorded by teenagers during the Your Place Sulina 2025 workshops.